And Craig, I will say this before we get into anything that happened last night in the Cowboys game. I actually, and this is weird, I expect a medium to large size college football story to break because the last 2 days, like everything's been kind of formulaic and like normal things. You know, Baylor's hired a new running backs coach from Oregon State, A.J. Stewart. He had a little time at BYU. You see there from Adam Rittenberg. So that role is filled after Juice Johnson left to go to Texas Tech. But most of the news is stuff like this. So I'm kind of hoping that this means that we've had a little quiet time in the week after the national championship last week, that we will finally find out what the Big 12 schedule is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to do it, they're not going to do it today at this point. That's pretty clear. I don't know what the holdup is with that. I don't understand the secrecy or the delay at this point. I saw somebody, I don't know who it was the ACC or something like that. I just caught it in passing that was like, hey, we're announcing our schedule on Tuesday morning at 11:30 East or, something along those lines. And I was like, wow, that'd be nice if the Big 12 just did that. Like, hey, the NFL makes a whole show of just releasing their schedules. And it's not really that entertaining, quite frankly. Like, it's fun for fans to get it and to be able to go, like, win, loss, win, loss. Like, I get why people get excited for it. But as far as, like, a TV presentation, I think it's just one of those things that the NFL takes and, like, makes so over the top, like, honestly. But it works. Like, there's a fan base that, like, they could say, hey, we're going to pick things out of the trash. And they would have a million people that would line up and be like, this is going to be amazing because it's got the shield on it, Mm-hmm. So, I don't expect like some big full meal NFL Network style presentation to just say like, here's who everybody's playing, but like, give me something at this point. I mean, it's mid-January. We're crossing the midway point, and this thing was supposed to be out, allegedly in like December, and then it got moved back, and then it was the beginning of the year. And actually, I think before that, it was supposed to be in the fall at one point, and then it was December, and then it was the beginning of the year, and then it's like, no, in January. It's mid-January, so like, it'd be nice to have this thing at this point. And I know, like, games aren't kicking off anytime soon, but I just think they're, hopefully the people in charge are hopefully, of the fans' mind here where there's people excited about this. Like, there's people want to see who Texas and Oklahoma are playing on the way out and who the new four schools are going to be playing in their first year. But I did read an article like a day or two ago talking about this, and it does make you wonder because there's really no really main reasons for a delay, quite frankly, other than is this because they're trying to work things behind the scenes with Texas and OU as far as their exit goes? Are they trying to, work this thing to, set that up? If that's the case, then I understand a little bit of a delay, but how long does that take?
I would have thought, to me, that once you started even doing this, and maybe I'm giving the SEC more credit here than they deserve, but part of me thinks that the SEC has like schedules out for, they've already got their 2023 schedule out, right? So we know what's going on in 2023 in the SEC. And then they probably have a 2024 schedule based on the fact that they could have 14 teams or 16 teams. They probably already figured that out. They probably already know. Maybe, maybe not. The Big 12 is still, new commissioner and all the stuff that's going on. TV deal that the SEC didn't have to work out. There were other things that maybe took a little bit of precedence, but that's what, like, I'm kind of hoping, since we have a bit of a lull in the news here, we actually get to, maybe hear what the schedule is, because, they're going to start playing 9 months from now, less than 9 months. You'd like to, maybe let your fans plan a little. So the other thing about the Big 12 that they need to kind of realize is that travel to some of these away games is not going to be as easy now that you've got a near coast-to-coast conference. When it goes from, Provo, in the Mountain Time Zone to the Eastern Time Zone, look, if I'm a BYU fan, and look, they travel immensely. We saw it here a year ago, or in 2021. If I'm going to go to a game, say in Cincinnati or Orlando or Morgantown, I'd kind of like to know about that beforehand,
Yeah, it's not, it's not impossible to book those flights right now, but, you don't want to do it, obviously 4 months ahead of time because it might all be booked. I mean, look, there's still, like you said, 9 months, but I mean, we are getting to the point where, people would like to be planning their schedules for next season and how they're going to travel and where they're going to travel and all of that. I've seen people complaining about it and, wanting it to come out and trying to figure out reasons why. And like I just said, I don't really understand what the delay is at this point. I did see one person speculate, this must be infighting. People are fighting over who gets to play who. And it's like, who's the ones fighting? Because it better not be anybody new. They don't. I mean, with all due respect to those fan bases, you haven't even played a game yet. So I sure as heck hope it wouldn't be like, BYU or Cincinnati demanding to play Oklahoma on the way out. So I don't see that.
No, I would think that of the four, only one of them has a request that's
Houston,
reasonable. It's Houston, like, hey, can we just make sure that we get the horns at our place?
Yeah, maybe a BYU or Cincinnati want to play Oklahoma. Like, I get they probably want to play Oklahoma and Texas, and this will probably, without a bowl game in the future, be their only opportunity to really do so in the foreseeable times we're living in. But so I don't think it's that. Perhaps it's some of the original schools or the traditional school or, the remaining 8, whatever you want to refer to them as. Maybe it's them trying to jostle their way to get who they want to play. Like, no, we want to play both Texas. Because I would imagine all the Big 12 schools probably want to play Texas and Oklahoma. So maybe that's the delay. It's trying to make everyone happy in that regard. But, come on. At this point, come on. Let's get this schedule out there. Spring ball's not that far away, quite frankly. We got a couple months. Some might start sooner than that. But, it would be nice to have, especially with a lull. But at the same time, kind of sort of okay with a lull because, honestly, on the Baylor side of things, every single day has been some news piece of a coach leaving or a coach hired or a player leaving or a player transferring or a player signing or a player committing. And I love it, don't get me wrong. But a lull might not be a bad thing because it does seem like you can't, go a day without some piece of breaking news. So maybe we're hitting that little bit of a lull. But certainly when the schedule comes out, that will get everybody going. I'm with everybody else. Like, what's the delay? What are we waiting on at this point? Let's get it out there. And I just wish they wouldn't have said anything to begin with because they've now delayed it a couple of times, and it's sort of disappointing. But I'm sure once it gets out there, everybody will forget about how long it took, and we'll all start to argue over who's playing who and why this team's not playing that team and what have you. But it is very interesting because, in years past, for many years now, you just say, if you're a Big 12 team, we know who we're playing. The only question is it home or away? And most of those answers you've had now, it's just a matter of when it first started of like how it would begin, but you've known home and away now. And really your only question is what weeks of the year are we playing these teams? And that's it. That's all you really needed to fill in because you already knew your non-con and all that jazz. But, I'm ready to see it. We know who Baylor's playing. We know who Texas and Oklahoma and who all those teams are playing as far as non-con. But, give me that Big 12 schedule so we can start to parse through this thing and start to make some really outlandish and dumb predictions that will change here, multiple times over the next few months.
Yeah. By the way, Wet Blanket, who's an Oklahoma State fan, said I could use a lull too.
Yeah, I bet. If you think about it, though, really, guys, right? We love news, but it's like it's just boom, 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 boom. And you think about, like, when did the season end? Because it doesn't really feel like it did.
No,
it really doesn't.
It was over. It was a week ago, over a week ago.
Yeah, I'm as big a college football guy as there is. So, I can imagine there probably are some fan bases that are like, all the news has been great. Websites, radio shows, been fantastic to have all that's going on, but just a couple days like where you're just not like, what's going on Twitter? Yeah. Who's in the portal now? Who do we just get? What coach is leaving? That might not be so bad, but no, it's definitely, I'd rather have headlines than not have headlines, that's for sure. But that Big 12 schedule, once that drops, that'll be a lot of fun. The UCF was the athletic director. Was that okay? Supposed to be out today, right? Isn't that what he said? So we're looking at, it's past 3:00 Central. They wouldn't drop anything past 5.
That's not a news dump thing either. That's something you would do early in the day, right. 10:30 a.m. before, like you do it by lunchtime.
Yeah,
so that
easily.
people could spend the whole day talking about it.
Yeah.
Maybe even like you wake up in the morning and people are getting notifications,
We got 14 media markets that, or beyond that would be interested in talking about the schedule and breaking it down just with the teams in play, much less, surrounding areas who are into schedule drops or podcasts or what have you. So, yeah, no, that would be something you drop at like 9 a.m. or whatever time would be suffice, and certainly have a full day's worth. And you're going to get multiple days worth out of that because we won't stop talking about the schedule and predictions and all that until the season starts. But that would be the smart thing to do. So maybe the UCF AD speaking too soon made them, push it back a day just to keep everybody on their toes. But it feels like it's got to drop here pretty soon. And I know a lot of people are antsy over seeing these schedules.
Yeah. By the way, TJ Scott asked, does ESPN and or Fox have any input on the schedule? Yeah, I'm sure that they do.
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know to what point. I mean, and one of the things I was going to ask Mac, because again, we were supposed to get the schedule today, is, how does it work when you, especially with this new and old and incoming and exiting teams, is it like jury selection in a trial where they can throw one out and be like, hey, you guys are going to Provo week 4, and then you're going to Morgantown week 5. Can you go, hey, nope, we'd like to not do that. Can you I mean, that's going to happen.
We wanted homecoming that week.
Yeah, can we do this? Like, how does your, because now it's 14 teams, so it's not like everybody can do that, but do you get one zonk? I don't know.
To be fair, I mean, throwing new teams in there, it's not the process that they've been dealing with now for, several years, where they've just known it's the same 10. We know how that works and how we get each other home and away and all those types of things. But you add in 4 brand new schools, you add in 2 that are going to be leaving after probably a year, probably. We still don't know that for sure. And I think that's part of, like I said earlier, what the delay is. But, who gets a piece of OU and Texas? Where do OU and Texas go or not go in their perhaps final year? Which is that's the biggest question that still remains is it, isn't it? It seems it is. It probably is. But is it? Because there were some people who were very proudly, clamoring that last year was the last year, even though that didn't seem all that feasible. Go back through Twitter and you'll see plenty of people like, this is the kiss our butt. We're out of here after this year, and they're still here. And so you would think that this is the final countdown. But there are, new parts and a lot of moving parts, so we'll see. I would think, though, it's got to if it dropped tomorrow, I would not be shocked by that, and that would make a lot of sense. Just keep everybody, like I said, on their toes after the false start of the UCF AD, and then lay it out there. But the other part about it is the conversation about Texas and Oklahoma and will they, won't they, go after this year. Was part of the thought was if they were to now arrange a deal to where they are able to leave early. Obviously, there's the money piece of it. We've known about that. But there was also that discussion, I forget where it originated from, if it was like Dennis Dodd or, whatever other college football reporter who had it, of talking to them about having non-con games for the next few years to offset the losses in revenue from TV ratings that will fall because there's no longer an Oklahoma or Texas. So maybe that's part of what they're trying to figure out, is those last steps of, all right, you guys are leaving, but you are going to play at UCF in a non-con in 24 and, in Waco in 25 or whatever they're going to do to arrange that to offset and come to an agreement where everybody's happy. The Big 12 still gets some OU Texas bump for their remaining schools.
The networks will be happy about that.
The networks will be happy because they still get OU Texas ratings and then they get maybe another game that's not might have been Texas, or not. Texas isn't really that bad about this, but I mean it could have been Texas Rice and now it's Texas UCF. Kind of one of those things. So it's better. Maybe it's the networks that are jostling over it. There, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. So we want our schedules and we want it now. But it's got to be close. It's got to be close. Yeah, and Texas is a team that's always pretty much game to schedule anybody. I mean, I've always respected about them because they're not very rarely do you see a Texas schedule that's like dud. Right. Oh, look, we're 3-0. Like they will. I mean, they in spite of even in their lowest points, they like to make everybody know that they're the University of, and so you too. I mean, they've been playing blue chip blue blood, programs in the non-con for a while now. Yeah. And so, both of them have been very good about that.
Was it like a last year where they had like one of their lower like schedules and it was kind of a surprise, like, oh, well, how did this? But I think that kind of happens sometimes. Like you can't just, they can't all be winners. Sometimes it's just how it works out because scheduling's tough. But the other question I have about the schedule is, okay, so the way that it's going to work in most conferences and probably the Big 12 is you're going to have, your teams that you play every year, and then you're going to rotate through the other ones. And for example, in the ACC, if you're, if you're UNC and your three rivals are Duke, Wake Forest, and, Georgia Tech, you're going to play them every year. And then every other year, you're going to go to Syracuse, and then you won't go to Syracuse the next year. You'll replace that with Louisville. And then, the year after you'll be, you'll flip that home and home, but it won't be home and home back-to-back years. It'll be home and home every other year. So how do you navigate that if you have 1 year of the schedule that's not going to matter, which would be this year if this is the last one? So I think that's probably other things you have to negotiate or navigate. And if you have 2 years of that, then you pretty much have to say that the real schedule starts in 2025 and that anything you did flipping home and home or 1 year over the other didn't matter. It was just the 2 years to get out. And that might bother some teams because then they're like, well, what if we don't get, a trip? Like there's going to be, look, everybody's going to get trips to Texas because there's multiple teams in there. But believe you me, everybody's going to want to take trips to Florida every so often because of the recruiting down there. But if you, say Tech all of a sudden, has to go 3 years before they get their first real trip to Orlando, they might be like, hey, like, what are you doing to us here? We want that for our recruiting. So those things have to be navigated out as well. Baylor has